I'm closing my chapter on university, which is insane to think about. I mean, I've been in the educational system since I was 1 3/4, and it doesn't mean that this chapter is closed forever. I do intend to do maybe a master's down the line and to always be a forever student, obviously. But for right now, my educational experience is coming to an end, and it's scary. I mean, you really go through the trajectory from preschool, kindergarten, elementary school, middle school, high school, or whatever system that you might do, and then into university. And then you either do your master's or you find a job. And so for me, my step that I want to do is I want to get a job and get that real life experience because I think that is where you really learn and grow and develop because you're utilizing all of your educational skills and knowledge that you've built over the years and apply it into the real world, which honestly is what education is for. And as I reflect back on my educational experience, I mean, it is such a privilege to have education. And especially as women, we haven't always had the privilege to have education. And some people also don't have that access to education. And so I do want to state that I'm very, very appreciative and grateful for the privilege of having an educational experience. I first went to a public school and then I went to an international school basically for all of my upbringing. And then I went to a university in the UK. Hi guys, welcome back to Clearly Becoming, a podcast all about empowering ambitious individuals as they navigate their careers through honest conversations and evidence-backed insights. And remember that you can be ambitious and confused at the same time. And so what this episode is going to really be about is looking at this past chapter. And as I close it, these are some things that I wish I knew before I even began, and some things that maybe could be impactful for you guys if you're still in that educational journey and just in general, because I think this can be applicable to life and work and just personal relationships as well. So without further ado, let's get into it. I'm not going to go through my whole educational journey. I'm going to really start from high school to university. It's going to be mainly about my university experience. If you would like to hear more about my high school experience, I can definitely do a story about that. But one of the things that I will talk about is my senior year and going into university. I had a college counselor and I'm very grateful to her. She really helped me with my essay and prep and everything like that. However, it was more about applying to these target schools, the ones that I could get into instead of the reach schools. I had 10 schools that I could apply to, and really I only reached for 2. And if I had to do it over again, I would have aimed to apply to more of the reach schools, maybe things that were a little bit harder that I didn't think I could get into. Because at the end of the day, it's all about taking risks. You never know what a university might be looking for. You can do all the research, you can look it up, you can watch videos of past students who gets in, the SAT scores, the stories, whatever it is. But really, they could just be meeting a quota. You don't know. It's a business at the end of the day. And they're calculative. They, are looking for diversity. They're looking for international experiences. You never know. There's so many more dynamics than you think that are actually going into the application process. And that is the number one thing that I've learned about universities is the hardest thing about it, especially like the Ivies and the name schools and everything like that, is getting your foot in the door. And I honestly think this is just in life in general, is getting your foot in the door is so, so hard. And that's the hardest part. And then once you do that, I feel like everything comes into fruition a lot easier. I definitely would take more risks because you never know. You never know. And it is daunting and it's a little bit scary to get out of your comfort zone, but just feel how amazing it would be if you actually did get that opportunity and if you tried, because if you didn't try, you'll never know. And that is something that I wish I did. I wish I tried harder for those more risky reach schools. And also another thing is with these Ivy schools or maybe the reach schools, there are other ways to get in. You don't just have to apply from high school. Maybe what you do is you actually go to a public university or maybe a university that is more of your target school and then you transfer in. or you do a study abroad if your school allows those. There's just so many other ways that you can actually get your foot in the door. And for us to think, oh, if we don't get that one way, if we don't graduate and get into this really good name school, then we're not going to have a good job right after. We're not going to blah, blah, blah. We think it's this like stepping stone and linear path that we have to achieve. But there are other ways to get in. And this is where networking happens. This is where utilizing your schools and your counselors and seeing how other people get in and just learning from that non-linear path, which is so much more common nowadays, is that you can get your foot in the door in another way. You just have to see other opportunities. You have to be able to broaden your perspective and not see everything as black or white. You have to kind of live in that gray zone, which is honestly terrifying sometimes, but it can be done. And if there's a will, there's a way. Also, I think something that is really unfair that we put on a lot of individuals is that at 18 or 17 even, when we're applying for these schools, we're expected to know what we want. Well, let me tell you, I have met with so many people during coffee chats, just mentors that I've looked up to, honestly, just people online too. When you choose your major, that is not the definitive answer for your life. That is not your life trajectory. You can get a major in something totally different than your career. When you're choosing your major, it is not the set in stone thing. You can change, you can adapt. And I really think in the US, this is really common. It's easy for you to change your major. And also something that I like about the US system that I've seen so far is that you can also take minors and take different courses that are outside your major so that you can experiment and be a little bit more curious. Whereas in the UK, it's a little bit more set in stone where when you choose your major, there are no gen eds, so you're really just going full front in. And so going to a UK school, that all my courses that I've had to take that are just my majors. So I do business management. So I've taken macroeconomics, microeconomics, accounting and finance, sustainability and ethics, consumer behavior, influencing consumers, and marketing and strategy and analytics. So all of it is tied to my major. Whereas in the US, you get a little bit more freedom. So that is like a little bit of a cultural difference that I would be aware of when you're applying to universities and something that I've noticed in my own experience. But yeah, at 18, your frontal lobe is still developing. Honestly, my frontal lobe is still developing. I think it doesn't actually fully develop until you're 25. Having that awareness that your frontal lobe doesn't even develop until you're 25 years old just shows that you are allowed to experiment. You're allowed to change your mind, and that is totally okay. This is what your 20s are for, is to experiment, be curious. Nothing is really set in stone, and that is the scariest part, but also the most freeing part in my mind. And then something that I've really noticed about university is it's really what you make of it. If you choose not to attend lectures, if you choose to come late, if you choose to do the bare minimum, then your return on investment of that university experience is going to be low because you don't put in the effort. But if you put in the effort to build your network, build a community, raise your hand in class, and really involve yourself in the university, then you'll have such a higher return on that investment and that experience. And so what I mean by this is that when you're in class, don't be afraid to raise your hand. And that is something I've also realized as a UK and US different experience, is that in the UK, a lot of students tend not to raise their hand as much. And honestly, I do think it's a bit part of that in the US, there is a participation grade, whereas in the UK, you don't. It's also a little bit more big lecture. It's a lot of like talking at you. I don't know if that's much as in the US. In my experience, it was talking at you, but it was a lot more conversational. And it was like this back and forth, having questions, answering, and things like that, that dynamic. I can't say that for sure for every single university in America, but that's just what I experienced when I went on a study abroad, which I would definitely get into later. I think it's really important to not be afraid to raise your hand because this is the environment. This is what's so great about education in a university. You're allowed to make mistakes. This is a safe space for you to make mistakes. In the real world, if you make a mistake, it's okay, obviously, but it's easier to make mistakes when you're in university because you're there to learn. That's your main objective. And so obviously you want to get good grades too, but you're there to learn. And so why not raise your hand and get the answer wrong? Sure, it might be a little bit embarrassing in front of your classmates and maybe the lecture hall is like 250 students, but you know what? There's bound to be another kid who had that same thought. that you did and was wrong. And it's okay to be wrong. Yes, it hurts a little bit of your ego normally, but you then learn from those mistakes and then you're able to grow from there. If we didn't make mistakes, then we would never actually expand our perspectives or our knowledge on what things are from the reality and what we thought. So we're really bridging that gap when we actually make mistakes. And also something that is really great about university is community. And so I don't just mean like a university community, like societies, clubs, all that. I mean, I think it's really good to get involved in that. And I definitely tried to. I think it was a little bit hard for me to join a society just because it didn't really have a lot of weekly meetings. And I didn't find my niche that I was looking for, but I found a community in London in general and just being able to really ingrain yourself in the environment that you're in. Because again, it's what you make of it. If you tend to isolate yourself, then you aren't going to be expanding your network and your community. But I actively tried to go on run clubs and I met so many wonderful people through that, people that were like-minded as well. I tried a bunch of choral communities. I never really found one that fit, but that's okay. I did a little bit of modeling and casting and met so many people like that. And honestly, one of the things that I think is really underrated is part-time jobs. I think that is honestly where you could also build your community because I had met so many people when I worked as a sales associate and just the people there were lovely. I mean, we spent like 9 hours together just working and chatting and obviously doing our work and connecting like that. So really just put yourself out there and don't be shy to be who you are and also to get to know people and be vulnerable. Because if you aren't vulnerable, then you're not actually going to make connections with other people. And yes, it can be scary to be vulnerable and it can be scary to put yourself out there and out of your comfort zone. But that's how you grow and develop. And that's what makes adulting because you're just going into the unknown and seeing what works for you, who meshes with you, what you value. That's how you identify your values as well, by trial and error. And it's okay if you don't mesh with someone, then you know what you don't really like and what you do value. Also, I think one of the most underrated things that I did not take enough advantage of in my university experience is office hours. Get to know your professors. I can't stress that enough. The amount of knowledge and resources that they have is insane. I mean, a lot of them, especially in my university, were very research heavy. A lot of them have a lot of academic published work. I think it is a little bit scary, especially when you're moving from high school to university. It's like, oh, but they're my teacher. They're so much higher than I am. But when you think like that, when you think they're on a pedestal that you can't even reach, then you're belittling yourself and you're minimizing your work. Instead, think of it as an opportunity to learn and grow. Ask them questions, ask them about their research, ask them how they got interested into whatever they're doing. Something that I really appreciated when I went to Wharton and did a study abroad there is the amount of commitment that professors put into their office hours. They would take us out for coffee. I had friends that had professors that would take their class out for dinner even, and just get to know them not only on a professional level, but also on a personal level, and just seeing what they value, what they're interested in, and also just hearing about their path. The more you gain knowledge about somebody's experience, the more, at least for me, I get inspired to follow my own path as well. It's not this I need to do this, this, and this to get to where they are because they're so successful. I mean, yes, it could definitely be a little bit of an example that you can follow, but also remember that this is your journey and nobody else has the same exact path. And I know that's scary, but it's really true, is that you are paving your own way in the world. And these mentors and these people are just for you to take inspiration from. See what they're doing, see what works, learn from their mistakes as well. I think that's the most important bit when you're listening to these things is see what didn't work. And also times are changing. I mean, we have AI now and we have higher view. Interviews are different, applications are different, jobs and things like that. And so it's really always changing and it's so dynamic and we have to be flexible and adapt to it. But these people can give us that inspiration and that motivation and also teach us what skills are important for the roles because that is something that you have to learn and you have to experience for yourself. And so I think office hours are a great way to just get to know your professor, build your skills, build your knowledge, and relate and connect on some level because you never know down the line what could happen with those connections and tools that you've gathered and stories as well. I think that's probably one of the most important bits of going to university is having access to these professors. And they can also be students who are maybe a year or two ahead of you, like TAs in the US, see what they've done and see how their career has come. And now I want to get into the study abroad bit. I think studying abroad was probably one of the most pivotal points in my university experience. I mean, that is where I gained the most network, the most friends and connections, honestly. And I learned so much. My university luckily had an exchange with Wharton School in Pennsylvania, and I applied. It was definitely competitive, but I got in. And at first I was like, ooh, should I go? Like, what if when I come back, it's going to be different? What if I don't have my same friends and my lifestyle? It's all going to change when I go abroad. And it is scary, but I did it anyways because I knew deep down that it would be good for me. Because again, it broadens your perspective on a different culture. And yes, I'm American, but I actually never lived in America. And so this was the first time for me living in America, which was kind of insane to think about. Well, not living. I lived there when I was really young, but as an adult, yes. It was really cool for me to see kind of the American culture and how it works, and also just how American universities run, which is so different than the UK, which I mentioned a little bit before in this episode. But it's also where I met so many cool people. Probably connected with a lot of international students as well. No shock there. And honestly, a lot of them are still good friends that I now get to see and travel around the world to see their hometowns and things like that, which I'm so grateful for. But that's what's so great about studying abroad is just meeting new people. I really think that when I did my study abroad, it was all about networking. And networking has such a I don't know what the word is for it. Just like a bitter definition to it, a bitter sound. It's like you're kind of using people. But that's not what I mean when I say networking. When I say networking, I really mean like connecting with people. When you connect with someone, it's like your neurons are synchronizing with each other. And I think I've talked about this before, but it's like you're on the same wavelength. Literally. It's just that kind of relationship and that bond that you really can't define. And I just think it's so cool because when I am connecting with people, it's like we are like minded in either our lifestyles or our ambitions and what we want to achieve, our values. I think values is the most important bit. And also just you learn so much about them, not only their cultural experience, but in their upbringing, also whatever information and education that they've gained from their home university as well. Again, I got to kind of see the difference of the UK and the US experience, and we got to share our different experiences with each other. It was also probably the first time that I was sharing a dorm room with four other people because in the UK you have your own room and your own bathroom, where in the US you share all of that normally. And so that was another experience just to see. And so I cannot advocate and encourage studying abroad enough. I think it is a great way to just broaden your perspective and really step outside of your comfort zone. A lot of people that study abroad in London, they get to travel Europe and just see the different cultures, which is so easy to access because you can go to Spain, you can go to Portugal, you can go to Italy, you can go to France, you can go to Germany, whatever. There's so many different things. And that in itself is an educational experience. I mean, traveling, if there's one thing that traveling does, it really broadens your perspective. And I think it's absolutely a great way to ingrain yourself into a new environment and a new space. And I just came back from Brazil actually today, and oh my gosh, did I learn so much. I mean, the people there are just so kind. It was probably one of the greatest travel experiences I've had, and I've had a lot of them. That was a pretty big statement on my part, but it was the first time that I traveled to South America and learning what they eat, how they wake up, what they do on a daily basis. And one thing that I do like to do about traveling, and I know I'm getting a little bit off topic, is that I like to do the non-touristy things. So yes, of course, I saw, the monuments and things that are important, but I also went on a hike at 1 a.m. in the morning. It was about 920 meters high. Took us 3 hours and 19 minutes, but it was gorgeous. I mean, just seeing that landscape, seeing the indigenous species that lived on that island and on that mountain, and just the evolution that happened just right there, learning about how to tell if water is clean. I mean, these are the things that you just don't learn in school. I know this isn't really about studying abroad, but it is a little bit, because if you do study abroad, you can travel outside or in that new environment and just learn about different things that you might not have known. If your university gives you the opportunity to study abroad, I absolutely think you should apply for it and take it, even if it's a little bit scary. And then another thing that I think is really important in university is placement. So if your university also has a placement year or a co-op, which I know a lot of American schools do, I know Northeastern has a lot of co-op experiences, I would do them, because co-op is basically like an internship. In the UK, they do like a placement year, which you can do for 9 months and you have to be paid. And I think it's just a great way to see if you actually like that industry. Because let's say you go out of university and you all of a sudden go into a job and then you haven't done an internship, you haven't had any experience at all, and you realize you don't like it. Now, let's say you have that placement year and you do something for a year and you realize, maybe this isn't for me. Then you know that you can pivot for the next year. You can change your modules. Maybe if you were doing a marketing internship or placement and you didn't really enjoy it that much, then you know that maybe you want to try something else and then see what you like, tinker around, see what works for you, what doesn't work for you. That is why I think having those placements, work experience as well, internships is such a great way to do that. And really use your school's resources with this. If your university has a career counselor system or people that help you get those placements, really lean on them, because they know what they're doing most of the time. I mean, I've run into that caveat, but that's a whole other thing that we could get into. But really lean on them. Something that I admire a lot about one of my parents is that they do an amazing placement. I mean, I haven't heard of such a good placement. He really invests in our students, and it's something that I really admire and appreciate for them. The amount of network that a university has access to because of her, honestly, is just insane, because she reaches out for them. She looks over their resume, their CVs, their cover letters, and she really asks them what they want. And I think that is the most important part when you're doing an internship. It's, what do you want to get out of it? Not just what you want as a job or an application or a placement, whatever it is, but what do you also want to get out of it? What do you value? Is your values aligned with that company and culture? And again, that's where you can go through my interview episode, is really understanding if your values align with the company culture, because that's where the energy lies. And if your energy is on the same wavelength, I think that is just going to spin you so much faster than hard skills, because you can teach hard skills, but you can't teach passion. And that is something that has been repeated over and over again to me. And I think it's really true. You can't teach passion. So if your passion and your values are aligned, that is going to get you so much further than just those hard skills. And I believe I mentioned in one of the episodes about a podcast that actually said that when they were taking for banks and consulting, when you take all of those geometric tests and the algebra and whatever those tests are, they actually weren't looking for a perfect score. They were looking for the ambition and the discipline in people. Did they try their hardest? Did they try again? Did they reapply? And that is something that was so much more important than just if they got 100%. So again, it really proves to you that your hard skills aren't as important as your soft skills and your values. Because if your values don't align, ultimately you're probably not going to be the right fit for the company, and that's okay. Lastly, something that I really want to just restate is that your major does not tie you down. It is not the one fundamental thing that you have to follow. Be a chameleon. This is the chameleon principle that I want to talk about. Try things out, fail, make mistakes, and it's okay to pivot. I mean, this is what this podcast is really about, is that in life, and something that I've learned about adulting, is it's always about trying new things and moving forward without knowing the full picture 100%. Because before you're an adult, you really have your life just planned out for you. It's pretty, clear which steps you're going to go to. But once you enter into that university and adulthood, it's really going into things blind and being confident and having that self-worth that it is going to be okay. Whatever you do, whatever decision you make is going to be okay. And I want to do another episode about making decisions and just the emotional and psychological up and downs happen, because I think it is just so eye-opening. Also, just relish in the moment of your university. especially for me, I'm very future thinking. So I think about, oh, what's next? What's next? What's next? What's 10 steps ahead? What's 5 steps ahead? I finished all of my classes in teaching, which is crazy to think about. And now I'm just finishing up my 3 assignments. And as much as I want to get them finished and as much as I'm eager to do that, I'm also just really embracing that these are my last assignments that I'm going to be doing for a bit. And it's weird to think about, but I kind of enjoy it. I kind of enjoy doing the research for the articles. I kind of enjoy the stress of it, managing and multitasking different projects as well and different professors and marking criteria. Oh, that's another thing. In university, always look at the marking criteria beforehand. And you would think that's self-explanatory, but believe it or not, a lot of people don't look at marking criteria. So I would definitely do that because that sets your standards for what this project is. Another little side tip that I've been doing, especially this year, which again, you would think would be self-explanatory, but I'm just going to state it in case, is that when you are learning the material, see how you can apply it to the assessment. And what I mean by that is that if your lecturer is talking about a topic such as nudging or something, and you're doing a shop building project, see how you can utilize those concepts into your assessment, because that will save you so much time than having to go back and look at your lecture, see how it applies, see what this is, blah, blah, blah. And also you build that emotional connection and that importance about learning the topic because you're like, oh, this is important because it's going to apply to my assessment. And that's how you can learn things better and you can also understand it more because you have that emotional and significance tag to it. I hope that makes sense. I also did a little bit of this on my How to Learn episode, which I'll definitely link below. And I might do an update on it because I've learned a little bit more about that, but that's another thing. And so honestly, you don't need a degree to get a job. And I think that's pretty clear, especially now in this day of age. But something that I do think is really important about university is that transition. You have that safety net in a way where you can still be a kid while being an adult and have that kind of connection of that university experience in general. And as much as I moan about my university, it's something that I can also connect on with other people because we have this shared experience that you won't really get if you don't go to university. And it's not to say that you have to do it. There's also an opportunity for you to take a gap year, experience the world, experience life. There's such a misconception that you have to do things at a certain time and it's all about the timeline. And at this age, I need to graduate. And I've heard from a lot of people like, oh, they're like 23. Why are they still in university? It doesn't really matter. 23 is young. I've had people that are 27 in my degree. And I think that's another cultural difference in the UK is that people tend to be of very different ages and a large spectrum than in the US, which I've noticed. You can get to wherever you want to go in whatever time. And yes, it might be impressive if you graduate early and things like that, but you don't have to. Really just relish in the experience, take it all in, because remember, your university experience is what kind of effort you put in. It's not about the timeline. It's not about how fast you can get through things. It's about how much are you willing to put yourself into it and immerse yourself in this experience. And remember, that's what you're paying for. You're paying for the experience. And so your effort needs to match whatever you're putting in. If you're putting in the bare minimum, you're going to get the bare results or whatever that is. Some key takeaways that I would offer looking back at my university experience, which I've done, I did 4 years of university and I did a study abroad for a semester and then obviously high school and everything like that. So I think I have a little bit of credibility when it comes to talking about education. Is one, go to that office hour, get to know your professor, come prepared with questions, look them up on LinkedIn, look up, see what they do, see what's interesting to you, ask them about their research articles. I mean, everybody loves to talk about themselves. Also, more than not, a lot of people want to help you. So don't discount that as well. And also, how gratifying is it for you when you come up on the other side of your career? I mean, I know that I want to help people as much as other people have helped me. It's like a give and take kind of thing. And then number 2 is join one society or community. be. Get outside of your comfort zone. Do something that maybe you wouldn't join. I joined a run club. That was something new for me. I've never done that before, and I tend to exercise alone. So that was getting me outside of my comfort zone. And I've met so many lovely people through that, and so many just people that I want to still connect with and talk about. I mean, Ash, I met at a run club, which I had her on. I never would have met her if I didn't step out of my comfort zone and do that. And number 3 is look at one conversation that you've maybe been avoiding or that isn't stereotypically in the linear direction. And what I mean by that is your values. And it's not to say don't listen to your parents, don't listen to anybody. No, I think that's really important to listen to experts on these things as well, but also just really clarify if it is for you as well. Because at the end of the day, you're the one showing up to these classes and you're the one building your own life. And so it really has to be for you. If you're scared to do something like go on a study abroad or do a placement or do an internship or get a job or whatever it might be, I think it's actually a signal that you are ready to take that step. It's just you're second guessing yourself because it's overwhelming and it's something that's unknown. So really just reflect on it and see, are you actually scared of what might happen? Or are you scared of the change itself? Something to think about. And it can be as little as just changing your modules as well. Like if you've been taking marketing, maybe take a finance course. I mean, that's what I did in my study abroad. I took a corporate finance course, absolutely destroyed me. To this day, I think it is probably one of the most challenging courses that I ever did because I am so not a finance person. Honestly, I learned so much, and definitely a lot of the topics have still stayed with me because I've had to study them hours and days and weeks and things like that. But it was just such a cool thing that I did. And I know that I don't really want to go into it, but I think it was just such an eye-opening experience. And it also broadened my skill set. I mean, now I know how corporate finance works a little bit. I mean, I'm definitely no expert at it. I wouldn't tutor anyone in it, but at least I know a little bit of a fundamental thing about it. And I think it will serve me in just my own personal finance as well, which I think is so important to be financially literate. I could do a whole episode on that. I won't bore you with that. But yeah, just step outside of your comfort zone, do something a little bit different. And remember that you are not behind. You are becoming. This is what clearly becoming is all about. You can be ambitious and confused at the same exact time. And honestly, every single decision, it will get you to where you need to go. And that's not to say that, oh my gosh, now I have to stress about making the right decision or whatever that might be. No, it just means that these decisions have these compounding effects, and they are ways for you to learn and grow as an individual. And it's so important that you don't wait to feel ready again, because ready is not a feeling. It is something that comes through actions and accountability and reflection. And so that's really where you grow, is when you take the steps, it's when you act, and then you learn from it, you reflect on it, and then go from there. And so finally, I'm going to do a little rapid fire clarity round because I've definitely yapped enough, and I'm sure you have busy days to get on to. One thing that I had to unlearn to level up, I think one of the main things that I've been learning is that it's really important to be vulnerable, because that is how you can connect. Be embarrassed. And that sounds so weird because obviously we want to be liked by people, but when you embarrass yourself, I feel like other people feel like they too can be vulnerable. And that's how you connect. And getting to know people's stories and being inspired by it and just seeing how life can evolve differently for each person. I mean, I think that is such a beautiful thing to notice. Advice that I delete from the internet is to play it safe. Play it safe never gets you anywhere. It actually keeps you stuck. Somebody that I am clearly becoming, I think that goes hand in hand with the first thing that I was talking about, is just somebody that isn't afraid to be authentically herself. And, if people don't like it, so be it. They're not the right people for me. And I don't mean that in a way that I'm going to say everything that hurts other people. No, I think it's so important to be kind and to learn from other people and to still embrace other people's perspectives that maybe aren't your own, because that's where that polarization happens, which I think we've been seeing a lot. So definitely not being just so stuck in your own mindset, but also not being a shapeshifter, which I feel like I've been most of my life, is just shapeshifting into other people's wants and needs. And now I think I'm clearly becoming somebody who is so certain in myself and what I stand for, not being afraid to show that and really stick to it. I hope this was helpful and just gave a little bit of insight into just education and what maybe you could take out of it and what I've learned. I know I've learned so much, and I could definitely go more into this topic if there was a bit in particular that you wanted to know more about, like how to really engage with your learnings and your assessments and things like that, or how to pick your study abroad, or how to pick your university in more detail. I mean, I definitely could go into that if you wanted to, or also like an international upbringing experience and what I think about that. But this was just a little preview, and I just think it's nice to reflect on such a big chapter of my life as I close it out. I love to do these little reflections because I think it really helps me gain a little perspective on it and just really relish in that moment and this opportunity that I've had and be grateful for it, for all it's given me and what I can learn from it and utilize from there. So again, I hope this was helpful. Definitely send it to a friend or a family member if it resonated with you. DM me for any questions or conversations. I read each one of them. I really appreciate each and every one of you as well for listening. It really means the world to me. And if there's anything else that you want to know, definitely don't be afraid to comment down below and give it a like and follow so that I can continue more of these episodes. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.